Evan Mitchell's hands gripped the steering wheel of his 18-wheeler, knuckles white against the weathered leather. At 33, his shoulders already carried the weight of miles and memories. Each state line a boundary crossed, each invoice a reminder of debts that weren't his own. The Missouri sunrise painted the highway in amber hues as Evan guided his rig towards Springfield, a town too small for his dreams, but still claiming him through blood and obligation. "Another birthday on the road," he whispered, adjusting the framed photo stuck to his dashboard. Tyler, his 5-year-old nephew, grinning with chocolate-smeared cheeks at last year's Christmas. A child who shared none of his features but all of his heart. A silent reminder of why he endured his family's subtle cruelties. Back home, Madison, his younger sister, paraded through life leaving financial wreckage in her wake. Designer purses on a retail clerk's salary. A failed boutique that closed before its grand opening. An SUV too luxurious for her budget. All anchored by Evan's signature on loan documents. His credit score, the foundation upon which her carelessness was built. "You're lucky we still have you at the table," his mother would say, the words wrapped in a smile but barbed beneath. The unspoken end of that sentence hung in the air, despite being gay, as if his sexuality were a debt he must eternally pay through financial servitude. The phone buzzed with a text from Michael, the nurse whose steady hands had somehow found their way around Evan's guarded heart over the past 8 months. "Happy birthday. Call when you're off the road. Love you." Simple words that felt like oxygen in the suffocating cab. Michael had witnessed Evan writing check after check for Madison's emergencies, had listened to the midnight calls demanding money for car payments, had suggested, gently at first, then with growing concern, that love shouldn't require bankruptcy. The Springfield exit approached, signs for home that Evan both longed for and dreaded. This time, his birthday coincided with Thanksgiving, a cosmic alignment that made refusing to visit impossible. This time, he'd spend the holiday with the family that claimed his income but discarded his heart. This time, Michael wouldn't be welcome at the table. The truck's engine rumbled to a stop at the Flying J station where he'd park his rig and switch to the used Honda he kept for home visits. As he climbed down from the cab, Evan paused, noticing how the morning light caught on his worn boots, one still bearing a faint stain from last year's birthday cake, a reminder of how quickly celebration could become humiliation. Have you ever felt like family was something you paid for rather than belonged to? If Evan's struggle resonates with you, follow Heart Stories for more tales of courage, boundaries, and the quiet power of choosing yourself. The Mitchell family home stood like a fortress of nostalgia in Springfield's older neighborhood. Holiday wreaths already adorning the porch despite Thanksgiving being days away. Evan parked his Honda behind his father's pickup, noting how Madison's gleaming SUV, the one his signature had secured, occupied the prime spot in the driveway. Some hierarchies never changed. Inside, the house smelled of cinnamon and unspoken resentment. His mother embraced him briefly, her perfume expensive and unfamiliar. His father nodded from his recliner, eyes never leaving the football game. Madison arrived late with Derek and Tyler in tow, her entrance accompanied by excuses about traffic that didn't exist in a town this small. "Uncle Evan." Tyler broke free from his mother's grip, racing toward Evan with arms outstretched. For a moment, everything else faded. The tension, the debt, the years of conditional acceptance. Just a boy and his uncle, connected by something purer than obligation. "There's my favorite dinosaur expert." Evan lifted the child, noting how much he'd grown since their last fleeting visit. Derek watched with narrowed eyes, his arm possessively circling Madison's waist, wedding band gleaming like a warning. "Don't get him too excited," Madison cautioned, her tone suggesting Evan might somehow contaminate the child. "He still needs to behave during dinner." The table had been set with the good china, a store-bought cake positioned at Evan's place, his name misspelled in blue frosting. Conversation flowed around him rather than with him, punctuated by Derek's comments about real men's work and Madison's theatrical sighs when discussing her boutique's closure. "Another business venture down the drain," she lamented, eyeing Evan. "If only we had better financing options." The familiar weight settled on Evan's shoulders, the prelude to another request. Before it could materialize, his mother brought out the turkey, saving him momentarily from financial ambush. "Uncle Evan is gay," Tyler announced suddenly, the innocent observation landing like a grenade at the table. "Daddy says that's why he doesn't have kids and lives alone." The silence stretched, painful and electric. Derek smirked behind his napkin while Madison feigned shock at her son's words. "Tyler, that's not polite dinner conversation," his mother finally said, her disapproval aimed more at the topic than the sentiment. When dessert time arrived, Evan's misnamed cake was presented with half-hearted singing. As he leaned to blow out the candles, Tyler's small hands pushed against the cake's edge, sending it crashing to the floor in a mess of frosting and crumbs. "Eat it off the ground, Chudong Tin," the child giggled, using the slur his father had clearly taught him. Madison's laughter rang out first, followed by Derek's deeper chuckle. His mother gasped performatively, then did nothing. His father studied his empty plate. Evan knelt silently, gathering frosting and dignity from the floorboards. In the mess of blue icing, he finally saw clearly. This wasn't family. This was captivity disguised as belonging. This was love with invoices attached. That evening, as his truck's headlights cut through the darkness of Interstate 44, his phone illuminated with his mother's message. "We've chosen to sever all contact. Stay away forever." Madison had liked the text immediately, her digital thumbprint on his exile. Evan didn't cry. He didn't scream. Instead, he typed words that would change everything. "Removing my name from every loan tomorrow." The highway stretched before him, endless and suddenly full of possibility. Sometimes family bonds become chains that hold us underwater. Breaking free isn't abandonment. It's the first breath of air after years of drowning. The Wells Fargo branch opened at 9, but Evan had been parked outside since 7:30. His folder of documents organized with the precision of someone who had planned this moment for years without knowing it. Inside were loan agreements, payment histories meticulously documented, and a list of every financial emergency that had somehow become his responsibility. Dates, amounts, and promises never kept. "I need to start removal wherever the policy allows," Evan explained to Maria, the specialist whose name tag featured a small rainbow pin, a coincidence that felt like confirmation. Maria reviewed each document, her expression shifting from professional neutrality to quiet understanding. "Cosigner, guarantor, joint accounts." She nodded. "We'll go one by one. You understand that for the car loan, your sister will need to qualify independently or find another cosigner." "I understand completely," Evan replied, his voice steady for the first time in years. The process took hours, forms signed, accounts frozen, notices generated. Each signature felt like picking a lock on chains he'd carried for so long they'd become part of his posture. When Maria slid the final confirmation across the desk, she added something unexpected: a business card for the Equality Center. "Financial entanglement is common in our community," she said quietly. "They have resources that might help with what comes next." What came next arrived faster than Evan anticipated. His phone vibrated continuously throughout the afternoon, Madison's name flashing with increasing urgency as financial institutions began sending notifications. By evening, he found himself parked outside his parents' house again, steeling himself for the confrontation brewing inside. They were waiting like a tribunal, his mother standing with arms crossed, his father slumped in resignation, Madison pacing while Derek loomed by the fireplace. Only Tyler was absent, presumably shielded from the impending explosion. "Explain yourself," his mother demanded. "I'm removing myself from situations I never should have been in," Evan replied, maintaining eye contact despite the tremor in his chest. "I'm following policy." Madison's laugh was brittle. "You're throwing your family under the bus because of a cake. You're that soft." "This isn't about cake," Evan corrected. "This is about years of being used as a wallet because you think my gratitude for your tolerance should be paid in monthly installments." His father shifted uncomfortably. His mother's hand flew to her chest in a practiced distress. "We raised you better than this," she said, wielding guilt like a weapon. "After everything we've done, accepting you when other families would have turned their backs, you raised me to work." Evan interrupted. "I do. You raised me to fix problems." "I did. You turned that into my permanent job title." Derek stepped forward, voice low and threatening. "You'll ruin us over pride. Your wife can get a cheaper car." Evan replied calmly. "Take the bus. Work nearby. Live within your means." Madison pulled out her final card. "I have a son," she said, as if the child's existence justified everything. "So did Dad," Evan replied, the words falling like stones in still water. "He still worked, and he didn't add Grandpa to his credit cards." His mother's voice went cold. "If you walk away, don't come back." Evan took a breath, remembering Michael's words from their last conversation. Boundaries aren't rejection. They're the foundation of healthy love. The truth straightened his spine and steadied his voice. "You told me last night to stay away forever," Dee said. "I believed you. This isn't revenge. This is closure." As he walked to his car, the weight that had bent his shoulders for years began to lift. The road ahead wasn't just asphalt and mile markers. It was the first path he'd chosen entirely for himself. True strength isn't found in carrying unbearable burdens without complaint. It's found in recognizing which loads were never yours to bear in the first place. The aftermath unfolded in predictable waves, starting with Madison's desperate texts. Day one brought threats. "Bank says you can't, bro, be real." Day two shifted to emotional manipulation. "Tyler cried for you." Day three escalated to anger. "You're heartless." Day four delivered staged photos of Tyler holding crayon drawings of trucks. By day five, the messages shifted to her true concern. "They're going to repo my car." Evan watched the notifications appear and fade without opening them. For the first time in his adult life, financial emergencies blazing across his phone screen didn't trigger an immediate response, didn't send his heart racing toward his wallet. Instead, he found himself breathing easier with each passing mile of highway. The Equality Center meetings became a Wednesday ritual whenever his roots brought him near Springfield. In a circle of folding chairs, surrounded by others who understood the unique pain of family conditional love, Evan began to unpack years of emotional manipulation. Some group members were disowned for being themselves. Others, like him, had been tolerated but exploited. Their gratitude for mere acceptance extracted as payment for basic respect. "You're not abandoning them," the group leader reassured during a particularly difficult session. "You're establishing what you'll accept in relationship. There's a profound difference." Michael's support never wavered. Their evening calls now free from financial crisis management. Instead, they discussed future possibilities. Weekend getaways, eventually sharing a home, building a life where love didn't come with invoices attached. For the first time, Evan allowed himself to envision a future designed around joy rather than obligation. His father's text arrived unexpectedly one Tuesday morning as Evan refueled at a love station in Oklahoma. "Proud of you. Don't tell your mother I said that." The message was brief, almost timid, but it created a hairline fracture in the wall between them. Not reconciliation, but recognition. Evan replied with equal brevity, "Thanks." His father responded with a thumbs-up emoji. An entire conversation condensed into digital gestures. The confrontation Evan had braced for arrived 3 weeks after his financial emancipation. He opened his apartment door to find Madison standing in the hallway, her usual polished appearance replaced by genuine distress. The designer purse was gone, her clothes noticeably less expensive, dark circles shadowing eyes that had lost their entitled gleam. "Derek lost his job," she admitted without preamble. "They're taking the car next week. Just co-sign one last time. A smaller loan, something manageable." Evan studied his sister, seeing beyond her demand to the complexity beneath. Madison trapped in a marriage to a man whose pride was matched only by his cruelty. Madison taught to value appearance over substance. Madison, who had never learned to stand on her own because everyone had always carried her. "No," he said simply. "Say it nicer," she demanded, a ghost of her former confidence flickering. "I won't," Evan replied him, "and I won't explain it again." She leaned closer, desperation edging her voice. "You'll regret this when Tyler asks why his uncle abandoned him." The accusation stung, but Evan held firm. Better that than teaching him his uncle is an ATM. When he's older, he'll understand that boundaries are part of love, not its opposite. Madison left with a slammed door and a final insult, her footsteps echoing down the stairwell like punctuation. That night, Evan sat in his truck watching the stars through the windshield, thinking of the dinosaur socks he'd bought for Tyler, stored in his glove compartment until the day explanation might be possible. A peculiar peace settled over him, not the absence of pain, but the presence of truth. His bank account reflected new possibilities. His sleep stretched longer, uninterrupted by midnight financial emergencies. The horizon ahead seemed wider somehow, no longer narrowed by obligation. We often mistake endurance for strength, believing that carrying crushing weight proves our character. The greater courage sometimes lies in putting the burden down and walking away with only what truly belongs to you. Winter melted into spring. The trucking routes that had once felt like escape now transformed into journeys of discovery. Evan found himself noticing details previously obscured by worry. The way morning fog clung to Missouri valleys, how Kansas sunflowers traced the sun's path, the varied architectures of small towns he'd driven through hundreds of times but never truly seen. His body responded to this newfound liberty, shoulders relaxing from their permanent hunch, sleep deepening beyond the light dozing of someone perpetually awaiting crisis calls. He began eating meals that weren't grabbed from truck stop counters, occasionally meeting Michael at diners where their hands could touch across checked tablecloths without apology. The Wells Fargo notifications had finally ceased. Madison's car had been repossessed. According to his father's occasional text updates, his mother maintained her silence, her promise of permanent estrangement apparently sincere. Evan mourned this loss not as it existed now, but as it could have been in some alternate universe where love wasn't conditional upon financial servitude. On a rare weekend off, Evan found himself browsing real estate listings near Table Rock Lake, modest cabins with views of water that had always represented an impossible someday. The savings that had previously disappeared into Madison's emergencies now accumulated steadily, transforming from fantasy to possibility. Michael leaned against his shoulder, pointing to a small blue house set back from the shore. "That one has good bones," he observed, his medical training evident in the anatomical reference. "Like someone who's carried too much but can still stand tall." The universe orchestrates collisions when we least expect them. While examining fishing rods at the Springfield Walmart, Evan heard a familiar voice. Tyler, excitedly identifying dinosaurs on a display of children's backpacks. Madison stood nearby, her appearance further diminished, wedding ring noticeably absent. Tyler spotted him first, eyes widening with recognition. "Uncle Evan," he called, starting forward before Madison's hand clamped around his wrist. Their eyes met across the sporting goods aisle, sister and brother, connected by blood but separated by boundaries finely enforced. Something unspoken passed between them, an acknowledgement without surrender. Madison's expression softened momentarily before hardening again as she pulled Tyler away, the child looking back over his shoulder with confusion clouding his innocent face. That evening, parked at his favorite overlook above the interstate, Evan opened his journal and wrote words that had been forming since that first cake had fallen to the floor. "My money is mine. My name is mine. My time is mine. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks and rules. People are welcome when they knock and wipe their feet." The following morning, he signed papers on the small blue house by the lake, not as escape or punishment, but as affirmation. A place where the only obligation was to nurture what truly belonged to him, his peace, his relationship with Michael, the possibility of family redefined on healthier terms. As his truck rolled, toward a dawn delivery. Evelyn watched the horizon brighten with colors no loan agreement could ever claim. The cab felt larger somehow, expanded by the absence of burdens never meant for his shoulders. In the quiet hum of 18 wheels on asphalt, he found the truth that had always waited beneath the weight. Love without invoices is the only kind worth keeping. Have you ever had to establish boundaries with family who confused love with obligation? How did you find the courage to claim your own life without abandoning hope for reconciliation? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Heart Stories, where we celebrate the quiet revolutions that transform ordinary lives into extraordinary journeys of self-discovery.